I'm back! Welcome to Sports Frenzy 2.0. Happy Blackout Wednesday here as we record on November 24th. Happy Thanksgiving as it drops tomorrow on November 25th. I'm the Conquistador Dave Height.
And I'm a maestro, Kevin Crane. And aren't you happy you don't have to listen to me drone on and on for an hour and a half by myself?
Oh, this is going to be a fun NFL segment, kids. Absolute pandemonium coming out of the Windy City.
Yes, because, of course, Matt Nagy has to deny rumors that he's going to be fired after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so what was it? Tuesday morning, news breaks. Sources say Nagy will be fired after the Thanksgiving Day game against the Lions. Well, that's great. 3 hours later, Nagy appears for his regular press conference, and this is an hour after Tabor, their special teams coach, addresses the media and has to defer all these damn questions. And where's the front office? Nowhere to be found. Ownership, silence. It's crickets. And Nagy's like, no, this is news to me. I've been out on the practice field. This is the first I'm hearing as I'm coming to the podium. No, I haven't sat down with Ted Phillips, George McCaskey, or Ryan Pace since last week for one of our regularly scheduled meetings. So I don't know what's going on. This is inaccurate. I haven't been told anything.
And, of course, the problem is the Bears are coming off an embarrassing 16-13 loss to the Ravens. The backup quarterback,
Huntley, leads a last-minute winning drive.
So this only fuels these kind of rumors and speculation that were already out there before this game.
Third, and of course, straight horrible loss after a bye.
And, of course, Justin Fields gets hurt. Rib injury doesn't help the situation. But Andy Dalton comes in, plays relatively well.
Yeah.
But the thing that's working against Nagy is that this would be the perfect time to fire a head coach because after the Thanksgiving Day game, you have a long week for an interim coach to come in and prepare and get himself into the locker room and get involved.
Right. You would have thought, all right, ownership silence means, okay, this is probably true that it's going to happen. But no, over 24 hours later, this afternoon, George McCaskey, ownership, goes into the locker room to address the team to let everybody know that Nagy will not be fired after the Thanksgiving Day game. Oh my God, I have never seen, they have got to be the most inept ownership in all of professional sports. And that's saying something because there's some awful owners out there.
Oh yeah, ask anybody in New York about either of those teams.
Oh God.
But again,
the like incompetence and stupidity boggles the mind.
We all know he needs to go. They're 3-7. He has botched everything with the transition to Justin Fields.
Yeah. Every year he's been there, the offense and defense have gotten worse. The on-field performance has shown zero improvement. It's gone the opposite way. They have regressed. And there's no excuse for that. It is not a good fit.
And, of course, Khalil Mack is now out for the year. He opted to have surgery on his foot. So the defense isn't going to get any better.
No. No, it's...
And the thing is, if they fire him, who's going to take over? Laser
or Tabor, but it does it do you any good to fire him now?
See, I don't think so. I don't think so.
It does no good other than maybe to appease the fan base. It does not get the team any closer to finding a better coach. It does nothing for the players. They're better off waiting until the end of the season now.
And how often does putting an interim guy in actually work out?
Very rarely.
If we had somebody on the staff that I really liked, that I really had faith in, maybe. But I don't see anybody on this staff that I could see stepping in, lighting a fire for the last month and a half under these guys and making this team perform so much better that I would say that's the guy I want.
Yeah, it's not there.
It's like in Dallas. Let's look at Dallas, for example.
See, now, if it would have been last year, you could have kept Fangio.
Oh, a couple years ago.
2 years ago.
You have to go a couple years back.
If Fangio would have still been here,
right,
you could slide him in, and that would have been okay.
Right. But like you look at Dallas, if Mike McCarthy failed this year, he's obviously doing better than anticipated based on what happened last year. But Kellen Moore, they would have been probably happy to slide Kellen Moore in to take over as head coach. If you've got somebody, like you said, Vic Fangio a couple years back, that you have confidence in, that's fine. Then go ahead, pull the trigger midseason, make the move. But there's nobody on this staff right now where I go, I'd love to see this guy get a chance.
Yeah. No, you've got a rookie defensive coordinator.
Right.
You've got an offensive coordinator who's been fired how many times for not doing anything in Laser.
Right.
So there's nothing there.
Right. Welcome to the hell that is being a Chicago Bears fan, kids.
Ugh.
And of course, we'll get to them again later on when we get to our football picks, where we're picking every single game on the pro slate. I just couldn't resist.
There's some really good matchups and some dogs, but they're going to be close games.
Too many dogs, though. Yeah.
There's going to be close games.
Yeah, and the biggest dog when I picked is actually one of the more enticing games. I was shocked at the point spread, but we'll get to that. We'll get there. We've got some news on injuries outside of course, we talked about Khalil Mack. Chris Carson is done for the year for the Seattle Seahawks. Their season is spiraling down the toilet. Wow.
That's an organization right now that I don't see any way for the tidal wave to ebb out on their downfall right now.
Now, who takes the hit? Because now we're seeing the frustration. Pete Carroll walked out on the post-game interview after they lost yet again.
Yeah.
Dropped to 3-7?
Yep.
Which I don't know, in the last decade and a half, have we seen Seattle this bad?
It's been a long time. Probably since they made the playoffs as an under 500 team.
And with Marshawn Lynch and the whole big run that set off the seismograph and all that crap. But Russell Wilson, something's wrong.
Yeah.
He broke the finger. Did they rush him back? Because that offense looks terrible since he came back.
They look completely out of sync. Now, is it him? Is it the play calling, preparation?
But again, Chris Carson, now you've lost your lead running back. Now Jason Collins is not that great of a guy to be your lead back. You've got two stud receivers, though. That's the thing. You should be able to generate more offense.
Wilson can't get him the ball. His biggest complaint is they never let me throw downfield. They never let me throw downfield. Well, it doesn't look like you can throw downfield right now.
That's why I'm saying, did they rush him back?
I think they did. But then again, Carroll has never been one to go deep anyway. He's always had the short game, the running game. He won't make that deep threat a viable option.
In other news, in the NFL, Adrian Peterson out after 3 games with the Titans. Now, I don't see anything that Peterson did wrong other than the fact that he's not the explosive back he used to be. But what are their other options? What purpose does it serve to get rid of him when he can still grind out 3 yards a carry?
Yeah, he was doing fine.
Yeah.
He was serviceable for them as an option.
And now we're starting to see the cracks in the Titans foundation without Derrick Henry. Yeah. And how weak that team really is without him as a threat coming out of the backfield.
Yeah, and the blocking is not there for pass protection. If there's not a threat
and they have got
for the running game.
A big test coming up this week.
Yes, they do.
Cowboys, Amari Cooper tested positive for COVID, unvaccinated. So he missed last week. He will miss Thanksgiving as well.
Yeah, but that's not that big a hit.
Because they got Michael Gallup back.
Right.
If there's one place where the Cowboys could take a hit on the depth chart, it's wide receiver.
Right. And
but then
I've
CeeDee
never been a
Lamb
big
got hurt
Amari
during
Cooper
that
fan.
game. But then CeeDee Lamb got concussion
He did. So
during that game. So then that really tore into their wide receiver depth. Now, I think CeeDee Lamb will be back for the Raiders game on Thanksgiving. But yeah, I'm with you. Amari Cooper never impressed me, not with the Raiders.
No, I always thought he was overrated.
He's a very
and
hit
he got
and miss
overpaid.
guy. Very hit and miss guy. He'll have those games where he'll blow up and he'll have 8 catches for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns,
and then
he'll disappear.
He'll disappear and have 6 drops and can't get open.
Yeah, and he'll go 2-3 weeks and he'll have a total of 10 catches.
Yeah.
And then of course
he's like Odell Beckham.
We've talked about this. He's like so many of these prima donna receivers. You know, this year, ask me about DeAndre Hopkins, how I feel about him.
He's right there with you at the top of the list.
Oh, all right. And the Giants, of course, in their pathetic desperation, we talked about the state of New York football briefly here, real quick, how Jets and Giants fans can't understand how both of those teams in one city have been so bad for so long. And the Giants finally pulled the trigger after losing 30-10 to the Buccaneers Monday night in embarrassing fashion. Get rid of Jason Garrett as their offensive coordinator.
Oh, gee, there's a shock.
I don't understand what the appeal was to begin with him.
Because he was Dallas's head coach.
Oh, for the love of God, we've seen how that's worked out over the past 2 decades.
Abysmally.
Dave Campo, does that name ring a bell? It shouldn't, but he was a former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Say no more. It's the New York retread.
Of course, we have a new contender for MVP, and I am all for somebody other than a quarterback winning this. I was all for Derrick Henry before he got injured, and now Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts.
Man, that was a performance and a half.
That was a performance of the year to this point.
How about the decade?
5 touchdowns going in to beat one, at least the beginning of the year, one of these Super Bowl favorites, and just annihilating them on his own.
Yeah. You looked at the score, and you think, holy cow, Wentz had a great game. Wentz didn't do a damn thing.
Wentz did nothing. He threw for like 100 yards and 1 touchdown.
Yeah. You look at the fantasy points. Wentz is my backup. I sat him. He got 10.5 fantasy points. Taylor put up, what was it, 50? Hold on. My wife texted me at work.
You figure
Sunday.
5 touchdowns is 30 right there.
Yeah. Hold on. I will have that for you.
While Dave is looking that up, we'll hit some other things here. Money. Dallas Goedert somehow gets a 4-year, $59 million extension with the Eagles. I don't understand how a mediocre tight end...
53.4 fantasy points.
Yeah, in one game. MVP. I know you snobs in the NFL don't like to acknowledge fantasy football. That's big stuff right there. Those are big numbers for 1 week.
And this guy's been consistent for the Colts all season.
Right. As I mentioned, Dallas Goedert gets a 4-year, $59 million extension. I don't understand how you're giving a mediocre tight end that kind of money.
There's no reason for that.
He's not even a borderline top 10, maybe tight end.
That's pushing it.
Taysom Hill.
Oh my God!
Is this the luckiest man in the NFL?
How in the hell did he get this kind of deal?
Granted, it's contingent on whether or not he's a starting quarterback, but still, if he does not start as quarterback, he still is getting a 4-year, $40 million extension.
Yeah. And was it 25 guaranteed to be pretty much a utility guy?
Right. Now, if he ends up being the starting quarterback, it could possibly jump all the way up to $95 million.
Yeah. I mean, that's just insane.
And this is the problem I have with Sean Payton. As much as I love him as a head coach, he thinks he's outsmarting the room. This is where he's different than Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick plays within a certain set of parameters. He knows I have to have defense. I have to run the ball. I have to have a quarterback who completes 70% of his passes. He doesn't screw around with that formula. Whereas Sean Payton, he wants a quarterback who's like a Swiss Army knife. He wants a quarterback to do it. So obviously, does this spell the end for Jameis Winston?
Who knows? Who knows what Peyton wants from 1 week to the next, let alone one series to the next.
That still blows my mind that
maybe he needs
drafting Ian Book, having Jameis Winston, of course, that's an injury issue. But now he's going through quarterback after quarterback, and he decides again to go with Taysom Hill, who has proven next to nothing in terms of being able to
run. He can catch.
He's not Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts
can throw the damn ball.
Jalen Hurts has proven to me this year that kid was underrated. He is like Lamar Jackson. He is the guy who can throw and run the ball. But Sean Payton is fixated on Taysom Hill for some reason.
And it's just supposedly all the intangibles. But he's been a one-trick pony. You know he's going to be running. He will not throw.
He has not proven he can throw the ball, yet he keeps getting extension after extension after extension.
I don't get it.
Sean Payton's trying to be like the mad genius and is driving me insane. Final note before we move on to last week's games and then this week's picks. We talked about it. The whole mess with the St. Louis Rams / Los Angeles Rams mess. They settled now. They decided to pay the city of St. Louis $790 million for Stan Kroenke's mess.
Yep. Now, we talked about it. Kroenke originally said he was going to pay for it, but then he backed off and wanted fellow owners to chip in. We still don't know what the percentage is.
Right.
That we're waiting to hear. It settles 4.5 years of this lawsuit, and there's no promise on the NFL's part to consider St. Louis for the next expansion team. That was already in there. But this prevents the NFL and the owners from having to disclose at trial their financial records.
Very, very interesting.
Because the judge and the appellate courts on the NFL's appeal, they had to be made public during trial to help the jury determine what would have been a fair settlement if it had gone that far.
There you go.
So, there you go. The NFL and the owners did not want that information coming out because that would have hosed them and the next CBA.
Great investigative reporting by the Conquistador there, kids.
There's your deep dig.
All right, looking back at last week's games, we talked about the Colts, how they, in Buffalo, Jonathan Taylor single-handedly destroyed the Bills. And now you got to wonder, are the Bills legitimate Super Bowl contenders? Are the Colts?
You got to look because that Bills defense that was playing so well.
The thing we learned last weekend is that every single team is flawed and flawed badly in some way.
Yeah. Yeah, you can go week to week. You don't really know who is going to come out on top.
The Vikings hold off the Packers in Minnesota 34-31. Now are the Vikings, and I will admit, I screwed everything up when I was looking at my entire picture of the NFL to start the year. I'd forgotten completely that we were going to the whole one team gets a bye, 3 wild card scenario.
Oh,
so now there's that extra team that's going to get in. So now a 5-5 team's not looking too bad right now.
No, they're not.
That's why is Minnesota at 5-5 now all of a sudden a legitimate contender?
They have been in every game for the most
And
part.
Kirk Cousins has got to be the most frustrating quarterback in history. He is so accurate.
But he makes stupid decisions.
Mike Shanahan knew what he was doing when he was forced to take Robert Griffin III, but he came back and said, I'll show Dan Snyder. I'll take the guy who's going to be better with Kirk Cousins, and he was right. But Kirk Cousins is still not a quote-unquote winner.
No, he's not.
One playoff win in his career?
He is known to make that stupid decision that costs his team a win.
Right. We talked about the Eagles. They beat up on the Saints in Philadelphia. Cam Newton, well, that didn't last long.
No, one week, and then where did the Niners come out all of a sudden the last couple weeks?
We will see if
we called them out.
Yeah, we called Kyle Shanahan out, said he was a fraud.
And here you go.
And again, because they're back to 500, now they're in the wild card picture. The Chiefs-Cowboys matchup was just a disaster.
God, that was just pitiful.
A battle
on both
of field
sides.
goals for the most part.
Yeah, that was just an ugly, ugly game. It wasn't so much good defense, it was inept offense.
Right. But it did turn out the way you and I picked. The Chiefs did win at home. The Cowboys are still not as good as their record indicates.
No.
And then we mentioned the Seahawks are done. That was their last stand, in my opinion, hosting the Cardinals with Colt McCoy, and they still got beat by 10. That tells me
that's a
Seattle's
telling narrative. Done. And this could be the swan song for Carroll.
And then finally, the Sunday night game was an absolute shootout, crazy-ass game between the Chargers and the Steelers. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. 41-37, the LA Chargers ended up holding off the Steelers. But
good grief.
Yeah, two supposedly great defenses
disappear.
Yeah. I don't know if there is a great defense out there right now. I really don't. It's week to week. It really is week to week. All right. So as I mentioned, we picked all 15 games for this upcoming schedule going from Thanksgiving tomorrow, Thursday the 25th, all the way through Monday night the 29th. We're going to pick and choose here. We're not going to run through the whole slate, but we will do all the Thanksgiving games.
Yep.
Starting with our Bears at the Lions.
I really considered taking the Lions over this incompetent, inept Bears team, but it's the Lions. They find a way to lose. This is going to be that one game that the Bears come back.
This is going to be yet another embarrassment, another nail in the coffin for Matt Nagy. No Allen Robinson, no Khalil Mack. Jared Goff is coming back. I know that's not a huge upgrade from whoever they got off the checkout lane at Martin's last week to play quarterback, who almost beat the Browns, by the way.
Yeah. But again, they found a way not to win.
I know. But this Lions team is not the worst team in history. They tied the Steelers 2 weeks ago. The Bears deserve to lose this game. They will lose this game.
Agreed, but it's the Lions.
Raiders at Cowboys. Everybody agrees the Cowboys are shot. Or
the Raiders are
shot. The Cowboys should cruise in this one. The Bills at Saints. It's a tough call, but I'm still going to say that the hype for the Bills, the promise of the Bills, that roster, McDermott's a good head coach. Sean Payton just outthinks himself week after week. He's done this now. He's still stuck with Trevor Siemian at quarterback. No Michael Thomas. Kamara should be back.
But you don't know.
That scares me if Kamara, because the Saints the last couple Thanksgivings have played really well. But I can't see the Bills dropping another game.
No, not back to back.
Everybody, we've got 7 of our 8 expert picks in. Everybody who's got their picks in are taking the Bills. Steelers at Bengals. This is a big one. Again, the Steelers looked halfway decent against the Chargers, but that defense was missing Minkah Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt. So Justin Herbert tore them to shreds. Now, if they get one or both of those guys back for this game, the Bengals looked sharp, but again, they beat up on the Raiders, who we admit are falling by the wayside after the whole John Gruden, Henry Ruggs scandals.
Right. With all of that, I'm still going to take the Bengals at home. The Steelers have not really played all that well on the road.
And Joe Burrow could have one of those games like he did against the Bears where he throws 3 picks and 3 passes.
You never know.
Yeah. This one, that scares me. That game really scares me. But I'll take the Bengals along with you. Everybody but Nick and Aaron, they go with Pittsburgh. I'm going against the Buccaneers. Buccaneers at Colts.
You know, I was on the fence with this one, but I just couldn't see the Colts going back to back like that.
Here's what I was looking at. The Buccaneers' run defense is fantastic. They will be able to limit Jonathan Taylor. But as great as everybody says Tom Brady is, which he is, great as a wide receiver core is, I'm going to say blasphemy here and say Frank Reich is a better head coach than Bruce Arians. And at home, I think Reich will outcoach Arians. He'll make the adjustments that need to be made. Carson Wentz, doofus that he is, will somehow do enough. He'll hit Michael Pittman Jr. a couple times.
And
Taylor will not be held down completely. He's that good.
And this could also be one of those games. It's Brady against the Colts.
I say it's going to be like a 24-21. The Colts will win.
I've got more confidence in Brady on this one.
Nick and Aaron are with me on this. So right now we're a 4-3 split in favor of the Bucs. We'll skip down to the Titans and Patriots. This is the game I was alluding to earlier, where I can't believe a 6.5-point opening spread in favor of the Patriots. I mean, the Patriots are hot, but check the standings. The Titans are at the top of the AFC. How embarrassing is that they're being put as a 6.5-point dog on the road?
But you got to look at the Patriots defense has been playing stellar lights out.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Dave, because that helped you beat me in fantasy football this week when I saw the, 30-plus points they put up?
32 points, the shutout, 4 sacks.
I was already destroyed Thursday night before we even got into the weekend. Good Lord. Now, I had them on another team, so I was happy about that.
Yeah, because I was looking, all right, who am I going to pick? And I'm looking at the Patriots over the last month and what they have been doing.
And this is why.
And where the Titans' offense is starting to scuffle.
They don't. Again, why do you cut Adrian Peterson? You have nobody else. So now you're going to put it all on Ryan Tannehill. Julio Jones can't get on the field because, as always, he's injured. Another prima donna receiver who either doesn't like his team or won't play for his team or can't get on the field.
Yeah. And
they have no weapons for Ryan Tannehill.
No. And this is why Miami let Tannehill go, because he cannot be the guy to take it all on.
Right. He's not a lateral thinker. All right, so we're going to skip some of the trash games. Rams at Packers is a big one, but I don't think the boys from SoCal
can play in 30-degree weather.
No, I will go with Mr. Lateral Thinker on this one.
Yep, agreed.
Nick and Doug disagree, though. They go with the Rams. Everybody else takes the Packers. And then finally, we talked about the Vikings. We talked about the 49ers. This is a big one. 5-5 for both teams. Big implications for the wild card in the NFC. You and I disagree on this.
We do. You are going with the resurgent Niners. I am going to go with the Packers on this one.
The Vikings.
Or the Vikings, sorry. I
No.
was looking at the wrong line.
No. And
Yep.
we're 4-3 split right now. Dave,
Yeah.
Sam, and Bill take the Vikings. The other four of us take the Niners.
Yeah, the Vikings taking the Packers out might have been enough to give them that little push for a week or two.
I just like the way the Niners beat up on the Rams. Oh, my God. I love that 2 weeks ago.
There you go.
All right, kids. NCAA football coming up. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
She walked into my office just as I was reaching for the bottle in my bottom desk drawer. Legs till Tuesday, lips like pillows. I want to hire you, she said, to find Sports Frenzy 2.0. Doll, I said, that would be the easiest case ever. Sports Frenzy 2.0 is on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Apple, everywhere you listen to podcasts. She nodded to herself, sat down and smiled. I grabbed 2 glasses. Life was good. And so is Sports Frenzy 2.0.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Sports Frenzy 2.0. I am the maestro, Kevin Crane.
I'm the conquistador, Dave Height.
Yes, we are too stuffed up, just getting over colds, dudes, talking about football, basketball, hockey, baseball. This segment is all about NCAA football. Taping here on the 24th of November, Thanksgiving Eve. Happy Turkey Day to all of you and your friends, families, and loved ones.
Travel safe to those of you on the road.
Cincinnati finally made it.
Finally, number 4 in the CFP rankings.
Dave is actually wearing Cincinnati colors. He's got the black and the red going.
Yep. So, beautiful day. And it just took Oregon getting their asses handed to them.
We knew it was going to take one of those top teams getting beat up to clear out that path for Cincinnati.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens coming down to the SEC championship game with Georgia and Alabama.
And I have heard conspiracy theories saying that there is a built-in fail-safe somewhere, somehow, for the committee to get both of them in.
That's bullshit. Absolute bullshit, because you cannot have a 2-loss Alabama if they do lose to Georgia still in the top 4.
They will. They'll find a way. Now, if Cincinnati runs the table, they will get in now.
Yeah,
you cannot
knock them out.
If you knock them out now, I don't care if they win by 1 point or 40 points. If they go undefeated, you let them in. Right now, this week, you let them in.
Every house owned by people on the CFP committee will be burned to the ground by football fans across the country.
But watch what happens with Alabama, Georgia. I'm just saying, Alabama should win the Iron Bowl against Auburn this week, and that will set up
the clash,
the SEC championship. You just watch. Unless Michigan pulls out the impossible, which most of us, looking at our picks, none of us believe will happen.
Yeah.
They're not beating Ohio State, so they're not going to be a factor. Then that opens it up for only Notre Dame.
Can Oklahoma State make it through?
I don't think they'll give Oklahoma State the slot. I don't think they will. That's going to be interesting. You're right, though.
Oklahoma State has to get by Oklahoma.
But if they do, I'm telling you, there is a fail-safe in place. With a two-loss Alabama team will slip in the 4th slot, and they will play Georgia again in the first round.
And nobody wants to see that.
Cincinnati will slide up to 3. They will play Ohio State.
Nobody wants to keep seeing 2 games between Alabama and Georgia, except Alabama and Georgia fans. I'm sorry. I am sick of this crap. We don't need it. It's absolute absurdity.
It's the problem with the system. this committee that they hired to start doing this, they're idiots. I'm sorry.
They're in the pocket of the big conferences.
You say this is a blue ribbon panel? No, they're not.
No, they're idiots.
They don't understand. I have always said, go back to the way it was 30, 40 years ago. Just vote them in. Let the writers vote in the best team. I don't care about these bowls anymore. I really don't. Because like you said, every year, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia, every goddamn year.
Whether they actually belong there or not. How many years do you have undefeated teams who should actually have an opportunity to play get looked over because, oh, they're not in a Power 5 conference? Well, guess what? The Power 5 conferences are shit too. They are not all that. Just because they have the big names doesn't mean they're any good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The Big Ten, outside of Ohio State, has not had a great team in a long time. The Pac-12 has not had a great team in a long time.
The SEC has 2 teams.
Right.
Otherwise, it's a crap fest.
Right. The Big 12, they beat up on each other to the point where you can't really tell if there is a good team there.
Because they're solid. I like the Big 12 because they play so competitively against each other, better than what you get in the SEC.
Yep. And the ACC, outside of Clemson, is an absolute joke. And I'm saying that as a Miami Hurricanes fan. It's an absolute joke. If Clemson's not involved, look at it right now. Look at it right now. Are we even talking about an ACC team even close to getting in?
Nope.
Because they're a crap fest this year. An absolute crap fest. When it's all said and done, Clemson will still end up being the best, even though they lost 3 games early.
Yeah. And there is no blue ribbon schools anymore.
No.
You have got to stop taking these Power 5 conferences as the be-all, end-all, because they are not all that. They're just as wishy-washy, skewed top to bottom as any other conference.
You can recruit all the top 100 ESPN recruits, the blue ribbon, blue chip kids. Doesn't mean, number one, their attitude's going to be there.
That they're going to perform.
Doesn't mean their performance is going to be there. Whereas if you get a coach who brings in the second tier guys at a Cincinnati or a Boise State,
who have a chip on their shoulder, something to prove,
and a better head coach could actually do something like we're seeing this year with Cincinnati.
Yep.
Do not disparage them. Do not keep them down. You've let them into the top 4 now. If they win out, don't you dare kick them out of the top 4. Like Dave said, there will be hell to pay. College football fans will revolt against this crap. Anybody outside of Tuscaloosa, South Bend,
Columbus, Athens.
We're done with it. We're done with it. And now we're going to head into a season, an off season, where some of the biggest college football coaching openings are going to be out there. We've got LSU. We've got USC. We could potentially have Miami.
You've got Florida.
Florida's out there now because Dan Mullen just got fired for one bad year. One bad year. That's all it takes in one of these top tier programs. You have one bad year. Dan Mullen just found out.
Yeah. Oh, and gee, what conference is he in?
The SEC, Dave.
Anyway.
So
now Penn State also just re-signed Franklin to a new 10-year deal.
Panic move.
Mode.
Panic move. Yeah, because they were scared Franklin was going to go to USC or an LSU. 10-year deal, a $7.5 million base salary per year.
Yep. Plus bonuses for whatever they do.
Right.
But man,
and what is
pedophile state?
All James Franklin did, and I'm not saying this is insignificant, but he was the one that kept them away from the Joe Paterno shadow, the Joe Paterno scandal. He was finally the one that came in and
out of the
we
dark.
can be a credible football program again. Not great. They have not been great.
No, they have not. But
They have
they
been
have
good,
been,
but not great.
They have. There was a lot of rebuilding to do, though.
Right. So I give them credit for that. But wow, this is a massive deal to give to a guy who's really never gotten you close to the Final Four.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
This is almost like Iowa keeping Ferenc there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Penn State thinks they're more lofty. They're better than Iowa. So in that respect, I think this is a little bit more of a panic move.
Historically, Penn State had been near the top echelon of college football.
Right. Now, of course, we talked about LSU and how that job's opening up here with Ed Orgeron stepping down. I have seen now that they have admitted they're down to 3 candidates, and they're not going for any big names. Baylor's Dave Aranda. Louisiana, Lafayette's Billy Napier, and Iowa State's Matt Campbell are supposedly the 3 final candidates for that job.
Very interesting.
So they're staying away from the big names.
I'm intrigued by them staying in state.
With Louisiana Lafayette's Billy Napier?
Uh-huh.
I think they're going to go with Baylor. I think they're going to
more high-profile poaching.
That program, and this is kind of what happened with Miami back in the day, except Miami coaches were getting poached to go to the pros. Jimmy Johnson, Dennis Erickson. With Baylor now, you're starting to see Matt Rule. He was the one that resurrected that program. And then he goes to Carolina in the pros. And now if Dave Aranda goes to LSU, to me, then I want the Baylor job, because that tells me the Baylor job has got a solid foundation, recruiting base. These coaches are getting high-profile, big-time jobs. Yeah. I want to be the next Baylor head coach. I'll tell you what, I think Baylor's more attractive than Miami right now.
Baylor would be a more high-profile job than Miami.
The U might have that stature, but it's 20 years removed from when they were a great national power.
Yeah. Baylor has been a solid program. They have been consistent.
Yes. Now, I will tell you this. Okay, I just, as a Miami fan, disparaged my team. I will tell you this. I wouldn't touch USC with a 10-foot pole.
Oh, God,
I'd rather go to Miami than USC.
USC has fallen so far.
I'd take Baylor, program. Then I take Miami. Then I take USC.
The worst thing to happen to USC was when they brought Pat Hayden in as their athletic director.
Well, Lane Kiffin didn't do many favors either when he, did his leapfrog stuff with them. Yeah,
Lane Kiffin, and then Sarkisian with his whole drunken fiasco out there.
Yeah, and how's that worked out? And I still think Steve Sarkisian has talent, but this has been an abject train wreck disaster with him taking over Texas.
Yeah, USC has been nothing since Pete Carroll left.
Or Ed Orgeron. USC has not had any kind of stability.
No. So
you can rip on the Hurricanes all you want. You can rip on LSU all you want, although LSU's standards are so high that I don't know anybody can live up to them.
And how is LSU's standards so high?
They've had Nick Saban. They've had Ed Orgeron win a title for them.
2 titles?
3.
Okay, 3. All right.
3 different coaches, 3 titles.
But still, that does not put them in the upper pantheon of college football.
No, it tells me there's no stability.
Right. Everybody jumped ship for something better.
Right.
But with that rabid fan base, with that recruiting.
That's why I admire, as much as we rip on the corrupt system that is the National College Football Playoff system, I admire Nick Saban beyond belief. I admire Dabo Swinney beyond belief, because they've been there for a long time and they have built a foundation. They've built the program and they said, this is who I am. come beat me, bitches. Come beat me.
There you go.
Whereas we hear Jimbo Fisher,
I'm going to
Florida
switch from here
and
to
then he
there
gets
to
rumors for
everywhere.
LSU. Lane Kiffin does the same thing. Build a goddamn foundation. Be happy with who you are.
Start
Be
somewhere
a god.
and do it.
Be a god somewhere. That's how I look at it. Be a god. Nick Saban is a god in Tuscaloosa. Dabo Swinney is a god at Clemson. You know, never have to buy a drink again in those cities. Why don't you? I would love
Even
to
though
be that
Saban
guy.
is persona non grata down in South Florida for the debacle that he left the Dolphins
You know what they do. You know what they do. And you picked a great example. They want to be Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah,
because they want to be able to say Miami and Dallas. There's 2 cities I don't have to ever buy a drink in ever again.
Yeah.
They want that.
Yeah, guess
they
what?
Can't be happy with one.
Failed.
They have to have 2.
And that's why Saban left LSU, was to jump to the NFL.
Right.
And he couldn't
But he learned his lesson.
He was not an NFL coach.
He learned his lesson, and now in Alabama, football. I don't think he's after Alabama, he's done. He learned his lesson.
Yep.
You're right, but he learned his lesson. Good for him. He is now a god in Tuscaloosa.
Yep. He is forever cemented in college football history.
All right, real quick to recap what our teams did this past week. Miami is now bowl eligible. They beat up on Virginia Tech 38-26. And, of course, immediately after the game, I hear rumors that Lane Kiffin might come to the Hurricanes.
Oh, for the love of God.
No.
Oh, Lord.
I'd rather have Manny Diaz back than
but weren't you
Kiffin.
Just singing Lane Kiffin's praises that if he just stays somewhere?
Well, stay at Mississippi. Stay at Mississippi.
But don't you want him to stay at Miami and possibly build that up?
No. Jesus God.
Because you know his ADD is going to kick in and he's going to jump ship to somewhere else in 2 years.
It's like a Kardashian. Well, the 6th husband's the better one than the 5th.
Oh, my God.
No. Lane Kiffin's already worn out his welcome in too many places. No. Of course, Notre Dame wins to me, impressively. I mean,
that was
Georgia Tech's not great, but 55-0 blowout, that
was
impressive.
the most complete game you have seen on both sides of the ball from the Irish.
Yeah, and that's why they're gaining momentum. Again, everything fell their way. The schedule turned out to be a lot easier than we originally thought. They're beating who they were supposed to, except for Cincinnati.
But you're seeing a strong Cincinnati team.
Right. So that's the only hope the Irish have, is that Cincinnati stumbles, which I'm not putting out of the realm of possibility.
No, they've got a tough game coming up.
Got to bring this up before we get to our last week's picks and next week's picks. The Big 12 suspended 2 Texas Tech radio announcers for going too far in their criticism of the officials in a win over they won the game. Keep this in mind. They ended up winning the game over Iowa State. They basically listed every official on air, the name of every official, claimed that the head official might have brain damage, called out by name the Big 12 commissioner, and basically said the Big 12 does not want Texas Tech to win this game. They want Iowa State to win this game. And this is a game that Texas Tech ended up winning anyway.
You know what? I'm sorry. I think that's brilliant calls. Why not? You're there to give analysis and your opinion. I love it. That is the heart of what Sports Frenzy is.
I know, but that's why we don't get a gig on the national networks, is because we agree that that's awesome, but they got in trouble
brilliant,
for it.
Though. I applaud them.
You guys send your resumes into Sports Frenzy. We'll review them. We might have a spot for you. All right, last week's games. Not all of them.
Oh.
We're not going to go through all of them, but
God.
the highlights. We picked
Or the
it.
lowlights.
Clemson did beat up on number 13 Wake Forest.
Yep, you and I were the only ones.
Everybody was in love with that Wake Forest offense, and what did we say?
Clemson's defense was going to ruin their day. They were going to be at their peak.
And Clemson's offense was starting to get into shape. Clemson wins easily 48-27. You can thank the Conquistador and I for that pick. Oklahoma did hang on and beat Iowa State, although they're still not looking impressive.
No, they're struggling a little bit there.
Florida continues to wallow in misery. Of course, they fired Dan Mullen. This was the one that had to have done it. Overtime, losing at Missouri 24-23.
And not a good Missouri team.
No.
And there were such high expectations for Florida this year. The way they started strong and they just dropped off a cliff.
UCLA absolutely blast the doors off of USC. At USC, of course, it's an intercity rivalry, so
but
the home game
still,
62-33.
No defense.
Yeah, again,
just
like we said earlier, I wouldn't want that USC job for nothing right now.
No.
And then finally,
Utah.
We mentioned Oregon got knocked out of that top 4 slot big time.
38-7 drubbing. Wow.
I saw it coming.
I did not see that big of a disparity in the score.
Yep, Utah really just Oregon, like Oklahoma, I look at those two in the same way this year. They were winning, but not impressively. Not as impressively as they should have been winning.
Yeah.
So I could kind of see that one coming down the road, although Utah had disappointed a time or two earlier this year. So it was a tricky pick. Glad it worked out for me in the end.
There you go.
Of course, Dave is winning in our football picks competition, so he can sit there and chuckle and laugh all he wants.
Yeah, but it was an awful week for me in college picks last week.
We're still barely 55%.
Straight up.
We should be doing so much better than this. This is wrong. Just wrong.
Well, it's because we're picking the close games now.
Yeah, there are no gimmies in the slate this year, so hopefully by the time we get through this massive slate this week and the great equalizer, which are the bowl picks.
That's always a crapshoot as it is.
All right, Dave, why don't you kick us off with Thursday night's game?
Mississippi at Mississippi State. This is going to be, as the Big Blue W would say, a ding-dong dilly.
I agree. This is going to be probably, if not the best game of the whole weekend for college football, one of the top 3.
Yeah, I am going out on an island so far as the only one taking the home team, Mississippi State.
I can see it because the Pirates at home.
The Pirate versus Kiffin. This is one of those games I see the Pirate taking it out on him, and Lane is known to blow a big game, and this is a rivalry.
Yeah, what is this, the Corn Bowl or something like that?
Corn Pone.
Yeah, something like
something,
that.
I don't know.
But, everybody else is taking Mississippi. I think Mississippi is a little more talented, but it would not shock me if Mike Leach, the Pirate, comes through again.
Yeah, I had Mississippi down and I changed it at the last minute, so we'll see if that bites me in the ass or not.
Your island picks have been pretty good this year.
They've been better more often than not.
And for those of you who don't understand what an island pick is, that means you are the only one out of the entire panel that takes that pick.
Yeah.
Duh. All right. Friday, I am intrigued by the first one. Boise State at number 22 San Diego State.
This is that stupid-ass conference where the ranked team jumps in will lose. And that is my thought process behind this. That San Diego State will lose to Boise State.
San Diego State's got a good run defense. I think Boise State will be able to pass the ball on them. I agree with you. This is going to be unranked beating ranked. So you and I and Sam go with Boise. Bill,
and I
Nick,
just like Boise State coming out of the West, too.
yeah. Bill, Nick, Doug, and Aaron go with San Diego State. All right, we drop down to Saturday, the 27th, the big rivalry game, which I put on the slate. I was able to put this on the slate because the point spread was under 10. I was shocked.
Don't know how.
I was shocked about that.
How, after Ohio State destroyed Michigan State, that this game, Ohio State at Michigan, was under 10. I don't see Michigan being able to compete with Ohio State.
I guess Ohio State road game, and they're playing number 6. That kept it slightly under 10 points. Nobody has any faith in the Wolverines.
No. When has Harbaugh ever been competitive against the Buckeyes?
Now, would I love to see the upset?
Oh, hell
Sure.
to the yes.
Do I think it's going to happen?
No.
Hell to the no. Hell to the no. Everybody's taking Ohio State. Other rivalry games for this week. Florida State at Florida. How the mighty have fallen. These two programs
Oof.
a
This
decade
used to be
ago,
a marquee matchup.
decade ago. Yeah. And now they're barely struggling to stay above 500.
Yep. You and I are going Oppo. You're taking the Gators. I'm taking the Knowles.
I think the only reason I'm doing this is I'm thinking that Florida just has so much more talent, and Mullen
Being gone.
mismanaged them.
Yeah, but it's a new.
I think the
chaos.
talent at home,
The distraction.
supersedes.
The distraction is what's there for me taking Florida State.
Penn State at Michigan State. Michigan State, of course, number 12. James Franklin just got that new contract. He's at ease. He can coach as he wants now. No pressure on him. No distractions from USC or LSU. Michigan State played
Reeling.
way above their heads this year. Penn State, better team. Penn State wins.
Michigan State at home.
Dave's got agreements from Sam, Nick, Doug, and Aaron. The Big Blue W and I go with the Nittany Lions. We'll jump down here to Oklahoma, number 10 at Oklahoma State, number 7. This is a big one.
This is a huge one. Oh, man.
The winner of this has an outside shot of somehow, if everything falls their way, chaos reigns, getting
They
into
could
that Final Four.
slide in.
Right.
And this is one of those where I kind of picked with my head instead of my heart. I want Oklahoma State to win this, but I'm taking Oklahoma because this is that big game that always seems to bite Gundy in the ass.
I think he already had that, though. I think he did.
He did, but really, things are on the line now.
Home game for Oklahoma State.
I just don't
The
know.
mullet might be gone, but my heart still rests with Gundy.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope
He's a man!
he's 50.
Is he 50 now?
Yeah.
Is he 50?
We had the 10-year anniversary.
I love him so much. Him and Mike Leach, those guys make college football fun.
They do. They don't care what they say.
No.
It's beautiful.
So even though we're going opposite, Dave went with Leach. I'm going with Gundy. So here
There
in this
we go.
game, Dave has got Sam on his side, and he's got Nick.
And everybody else
Goes
with
with
the
Oklahoma
Cowboys.
State.
Ugh.
It's going to be a fun rivalry weekend. Then, of course, we got championship week coming up,
Yep.
and then the great equalizer.
All the frickin' bowl
We
games.
pick every bowl game every year to decide the champion in Sports Frenzy for the Rick Brooks Memorial Trophy. If you don't
Ugh.
know who Rick Shaggy Brooks is, shame on you.
We'll tell you the story as we get closer to the presentation of the trophy.
Yes, you must not have watched our cable access show 30 years ago. That being said,
we killed off Rick Shaggy Brooks in every episode before it became a thing to kill Kenny on South Park.
that is true. So we have got tons more to talk about here. Don't forget to check out the weekend edition where we've got reviews, including Red Notice and the new Psych movie on Peacock.
This is Gus.
But of course, here we've got much more sports to talk about. The Conquistador and I will be right back. Stay tuned.
Yes. Listen, you will, to Sports Frenzy 2.0, you must. Much to learn from the Maestro and Conquistador there is for entertainment every Saturday. On Spotify, Anchor, Google, Apple, and everywhere are they found.
Happy Turkey Day to all you Sports Frenzy fans out there. This is the Conquistador Dave Height.
And I'm the Maestro, Kevin Crane.
Here we are recording November 24th, Blackout Wednesday. This will drop on Thanksgiving. Major League Baseball time in this segment.
Silly season continues for one more week because December the 1st,
Lockout begins.
we all know it's coming, so everybody's spending crazy, stupid money to a point.
To a point. And I'm sorry, baseball labor disputes here are the absolute worst. The most incompetent decisions by both sides. They can never get it figured out. It's pathetic.
Yeah, we've had labor disputes in all the major sports in the past, but
None
the
drag
NFL
on.
knows you're messing with the goose that laid the golden egg, so those get wrapped up the quickest. But, with baseball, with basketball, with hockey, I hate to call them fringe sports, but when you compare them to the NFL, they are.
They are.
So that's where they get very arrogant. And one side says, we're in power, we're in charge. The other side says, we're in power, we're in charge. And that's where you get what we're going to get here in baseball, a stupid long lockout that helps nobody and destroys the fan base.
Yep.
Discourages the fan base.
And why do you think the fans are fleeing from baseball other than 3.5 to 4 hour games? They're sick of this piddly bullshit labor disputes. It's the stupid ass contracts and money. It's the asshole idiot agent, Scott Morris. It's absolute stupidity.
Multi-millionaires arguing with billionaires.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's
and we
just
hear
bad.
that time and time again.
Stupid guaranteed contracts.
Speaking of which, Justin Verlander coming off Tommy John surgery. The Astros bring him back for $25 million for 1 year.
Ridiculous.
Especially given his age, pushing 40.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to get. How is his body going to bounce back?
After he's been bouncing with his wife.
I'd bounce on Kate Upton any day of the week. Are you kidding me?
I'm surprised he's coming back.
That's the thing. Yeah. That's taking time away from bouncing on her.
What kind of rehab was he doing? All right, back to the topic at hand.
This reminds me of a song we heard on Skid Row's concert last week, Big Guns. Weekend edition, Sebastian Bach concert review. All right, we also have a guy who really, I liked him when he was at the Reds. He went to the Giants, pitched very well this year. Anthony DeSclafani gets a 3-year, $36 million deal. I like the fact that Giants are doing what they do. They always fly under the radar.
They spend wisely.
Exactly.
They don't get stupid.
This is a very smart deal for them to lock him up for another 3 years for a reasonable amount of money.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to a Kyle Hendricks deal, which is what the Cubs pulled a couple years back. St. Louis, I don't know how much I like Steven Matz, but they lock him up for 4 years and $44 million. Again, not a ton of money in the grand scheme of things, but I take DeSclafani any day over Matz.
Agreed.
Matz with his mediocre history with the Mets, and then he goes to Toronto, and he has one great year with Toronto, and now he's not cashing in. This is not a huge deal.
No, but I think it's probably 1 year too many for him.
Well, and plus left-handed pitching. It's always left-handed pitching. Everybody overpays for left-handed pitching. So I think that's what you're seeing here. Now, of course, the White Sox are stocking up on closers.
Yep, we got a third closer, Kendall Graveman. It's still a pending deal, 3-year deal. Get him out of Houston, which will be good. Now this leaves the great and glorious frickin' pterodactyl, has been washed up, didn't do a goddamn thing for us, Kimbrel, available for trade.
Who's going to be stupid enough to trade for him?
There's going to be somebody out there.
Oh, my God.
Kimbrel cannot be a setup guy. He's shown that. My God, he went closing for the Cubs.
Do you get tired of that whole crap where these guys say it's all, I have a closer mentality?
No, bullshit.
You pitch, you get guys out. That's your job. You pitch, you get guys out.
You treat every inning as the 9th inning. It was absolutely stupid. He had a 0 ERA closing for the Cubs. He comes in pitching the 8th inning for the Sox, and his ERA jumps up to over 9. Absolutely ridiculous.
And you can't fault the White Sox because in that respect, they weren't going to unseat Liam Hendricks.
Oh, hell no.
Liam Hendricks just made first team All MLB.
He was a Cy Young finalist.
So the only question I have is why bring a Kimbrel into that situation?
They were hoping to have a lights out 7, 8, and 9 with Kopech, Kimbrel, and Hendricks. And it didn't work.
Yep. And now you bring Graveman in, so...
Graveman went from closer, and he did very well adjusting to that 8th inning setup role for Houston. So I'm liking this move much better than the Kimbrel move.
And the thing that was interesting about Graveman is, if you remember when Seattle, right before the trade deadline, traded him to Houston?
Yeah.
And they thought everybody in the locker room was like, oh, great, we're bailing on the season.
Yeah.
And somehow, credit to Scott Service, the manager, brought them all back together, and they made a run and just fell short of the postseason, even after they traded their closer, Graveman. Now, of course, the big signing of the week, this will tell you about baseball in a nutshell. You can judge this as you will. I wanted to give Dave and I a couple minutes to talk about this because this is a ridiculous / unbelievably smart signing. Wander Franco, shortstop, Tampa Bay Rays, wunderkind, be-all, end-all prospect, gets brought up last year by the Rays, plays 70 games, plays very well. The Rays, being a small market, small budget team, saw enough of him in 70 games to give him an 11-year deal with 12 years as an option, maxing out at $223 million. As it is, looks like $185 million guaranteed plus.
Wow.
For 70 games.
God,
I mean, this is what we're seeing. We're seeing this with Tatis, Ozuna, Acuna. We're seeing this. When you got a young stud and he shows up and he plays well for a season, half a season, season and a half, you lock him up.
Yeah, but that's still a long-term lot of money out there.
He blows his knee out next year. Guess what?
He's done.
Yep.
You go that long, that's scary. The Sox have been smart. They've gone for 5 years to get guys locked up at a reasonable amount.
Right.
That is what you should be looking at as you go. You can't keep doing these 10-year plus deals, especially as guys get older.
Can I tell you the one that really this year came back to bite people like you and me who think that way? Because I agree with you. I'm 100% with you. If we were running a team, which we should be in charge of at least one franchise in every major sport. And
we
they
should
would
be
all
running,
be champions. They would all be champions.
And we should be running every front office for the sports leagues themselves.
But the one that came back this year to bite us is the Bryce Harper deal.
Maybe.
Now, I don't necessarily believe he had an MVP year, but Bryce Harper, and we're going to get to the rest of the awards here in a minute. Bryce Harper was the NL MVP with the Phillies. He led that team to mediocrity, just like he did with the Nationals, because last time I checked, they won the title after he left. But the Phillies locked him up long term. He had a couple years to settle in. He put up really good numbers this year. Finished strong, which I think is what happened. That skewed the numbers.
That's the thing. Just because he finished strong does not mean he should have been there to win the award.
And I still think you still need to, in baseball especially, I wouldn't have a problem with it in any sport, to be honest with you. But in baseball especially, count the postseason. Don't vote for MVP or Cy Young, any of the awards, until the postseason is done. You should count what a player or a pitcher does in the postseason towards being an MVP. Bryce Harper right now is a perfect example of this because he didn't get in the playoffs. He didn't get his team into the playoffs, but he's an MVP?
That does not compute. Sorry.
This isn't an Andre Dawson type year with the Cubs, where even though the Cubs were terrible that year, Dawson
he led every
was
freaking statistical
so unbelievably fantastic that you couldn't deny he was the best player on the field.
Across the entire National League, yeah. There were other players out there more suited to winning the MVP than Bryce Harper.
Now, in the American League, there was no dispute. There was no dispute.
No.
Unanimous pick. And I still think this will go down as the greatest year ever by a player is Shohei Ohtani.
My God, this guy harkened back old school, doing it on the mound, in the field, at the plate. I mean, defensively as a pitcher, he was pretty damn good. But being the DH, out hitting everybody. Unbelievable.
And the sad thing is, I know he had a little bit of an injury issue here over the past couple seasons. He puts his teammate Mike Trout to shame, in my opinion, with this year.
Oh, God, yes.
Mike Trout should... How are the Angels not winning that division every year with these two?
You know...
And the genius manager, Joe Madden.
I get tired of hearing Mike Trout is the greatest baseball player. Really? Didn't we hear that about Bryce Harper when he came into the league too?
Perfect, because we were just talking about this. Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, what have they done to make their team champions? Answer, nothing. And you can say that about Shohei Ohtani if you want. You can rip on him and say, well, he didn't get the Angels in the playoffs. But again, look what he did.
He was by far and away the best overall player in the American League.
In all of baseball. If there was an overall MVP, he would have won it.
He did it at the plate. He did it on the mound.
Right.
He did what he could on both offense and defense. And he had nothing around him.
Right. It amazes me.
Much more impressive what he did than Bryce Harper. Sorry.
And it's just, I don't want to go on a diatribe about the Angels, but how the hell does Artie Moreno pay all this goddamn money year after year after year
for nothing.
Everybody forgets he's invested $30 million a year in Anthony Rendon too.
Yeah.
So he's got 3 players out there: Rendon, Trout, and Ohtani, who should be dominating the league. They can't finish above 500. Doesn't matter if you have Socha. Doesn't matter if you have Madden coaching them. No. What is the problem
it's
with that
because you're
team?
wrapping up too much damn money in a couple of players that you can't get anybody else in. Or you get the big Pujols was there for how long, and how much did you pay him?
Great point, Dave.
How much did you pay an aging Pujols that you
One
couldn't
of those
bring
long-term deals we were just talking about?
Yeah, that hamstrung that team from bringing anybody else in.
And then what do? Do they learn? No. Right on the heels of that, they do the same thing with Trout and Rendon.
And Trout, you got to worry about injuries year in and year out now.
And Rendon is obviously not playing nearly as well as they thought he would when they brought him in from Washington.
You get paid, you disappear.
You got to wonder if at some point in time the Rays don't know what the hell they're doing. Even with this ridiculous Wander Franco deal, they know they're minimizing their risk.
Yeah.
Okay, they're paying this kid. It's going to end up being what? $20 million a year, 18, 17.
Yeah.
But if he ends up being even halfway decent,
it's going to wind up being halfway decent deal.
And I wonder if they're not going to do the same thing soon with Randy Rosarino, because that guy was unbelievable.
Yeah,
he's the rookie of the year.
Well, let's
American
go back
League.
in the day with those long-term deals. What did the Rangers do with A-Rod? And then he wasn't living up to it, and they dumped him off on New York.
New York gave him another dumb deal. And A-Rod basically had one great postseason.
And that was it. And now he's up for the Hall of Fame.
We'll get to that in a second, too. Got to wrap up the awards, though. We did talk about last week about the rookies, so I brought up Rosarena again just because I love that guy. He was a stud in the playoffs last year. He was
absolutely
great this year.
Unbelievable.
I'm shocked that he didn't get the deal that Wander Franco did.
Oh, I know.
Because if you would lock those two in, you lock those two in long-term Tampa Bay.
You're gold.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
You are gold in that regard.
Then if I'm Tampa Bay, then I go to the city council and I say, give us a goddamn better ballpark or we are moving. Look at these two young studs we've got locked up.
Yeah.
Well, anybody will take us.
Tropicana Field
we can
is
move to
holding
Portland.
them back.
Yes, it's a dump. It's a dump. I've been there. It's a dump. It's even, you can move the stadium closer to Raymond James where the Bucks play. That's all you got to do. You will get so many more people.
Convenience.
Driving from
the
Orlando.
The location is a disaster where it's at.
Driving from Orlando, if I drive from Orlando to Raymond James, it's not even 2 hours. But if I have to take that dreaded left turn down to St. Petersburg to go to the Tropicana Dome, that's an extra hour.
Yeah, and it's not even... It's in probably the most inconvenient place in St. Petersburg.
Yes, right on the southern tip.
It is absolutely, completely out of the way of everything.
You can keep that team in Tampa and make it viable. You just got to make it more accessible.
Put it closer between Tampa and St. Pete. And you would have such a better draw. Ugh.
Tampa fans are not bad fans. They've shown it with the Bucks.
But they're not going to deal with the damn traffic and go out of their way.
Just driving from Tampa to St. Pete
is a nightmare.
An hour of bad traffic. You shouldn't have to deal with that.
No.
Cy Young Awards go to Corbin Burns of the Brewers. Okay. Doesn't excite me. Doesn't do much for me, but
All right, whatever.
yeah, I know he beat the Cubs up, but everybody did, so big deal. Big
Yep.
whoop.
American League, Robbie Ray from the Blue Jays had a phenomenal season. Well deserved there.
Your guy was in the finals.
Yeah, as a closer, Liam Hendricks was there. Dallas Keuchel, or no, not Keuchel.
I was going to say, have you lost your mind?
I was thinking
Dallas Keuchel?
I was thinking he's the one who should not have been in the mix. God,
You're killing me, Small.
This cold is kicking my ass.
I gave you an opening, and you blew it completely.
God.
I think you were thinking of Lance Lynn.
Yes. God.
Kids, it wouldn't be Sports Frenzy if we didn't have fun with our screw-ups like this.
Exactly.
Lance Lynn was in the finals as well.
Finished third.
Yes.
What was it? Hendricks finished in the top 10. Giolito was up there. Rodon was up there.
Now, Rodon's out there as a free agent.
He is. And I think the Sox are possibly looking at bringing him back on a free agent deal for the right amount.
Yeah. And what did I tell you about the Cubs? What did I tell you? Oh, we're going to spend money. They're not going to spend a dime. Liars.
They're not going to do a thing.
All right. Last thing in baseball. Hall of Fame balloting. The ballots are out. The election will be finalized, I believe, late January 2022.
Yep.
But the big significant thing about this ballot is this is the last chance for a lot of the steroid era stars.
Yep.
Barry Bonds,
Roger Clemens.
Now, do you see the writers caving at the last minute and letting some of these guys in?
I have heard some of the writers thinking that they might start to cave a little bit, but I don't think enough of them will.
I've always said that the two that I could see them actually putting in are Bonds and Clemens.
They would have been Hall of Famers regardless of the cheating.
If they had not cheated at the back half of their careers.
They were going to be in anyway. But at the same time, if you do that, then baseball has to reevaluate Pete Rose.
I've always said that. I agree with you on that. There's no way in hell. If you're going to put steroid users in, then you put Pete Rose in. Pete Rose was arguably the greatest hitter in baseball history.
Yep. Agreed. And so he bet on the game. He never bet on his own team.
Yep. All right, NASCAR real quick. Of course, we're in the off season now. Dave has homework to do again. I have decided.
Oh, I forgot about that.
No, not that. We got more for you.
Oh, God. All
right, we're not talking about the clash at the Coliseum.
Hold on. Let me write.
I love this. Dave's got his notebook. He's got to write down because he knows I turn to him for all the NASCAR. There is going to be practice and qualifying in 2022, Dave.
Yes.
But there is a new knockout format that you are going to have to research and inform all of us about in the coming weeks. Because, of course, NASCAR they can't just go back to a normal practice and qualifying schedule.
They're going to do something stupid like Formula One.
It's different for every track
format.
For
Christ, this is absolutely freaking stupid. Let them practice. Qualifying is your bonsai run. Fastest qualifying lap gets the pole. End of discussion.
You're going to love this. I guarantee you're going to love this because it's like one of those group knockout format.
That is
so you could again, we know how tracks change during the course of a day based on sun, temperature, weather. So you can have one
Dude.
group that has all the fastest times and one group that has all the slowest times, but the same amount of people are going to qualify from that group.
And it does play in because there was one year for one of the August race at Michigan back in the mid-90s when my dad and I went up for qualifying. Sunny day, not a damn cloud in the sky. It's getting late in qualifying. There's clouds kind of off in the distance that are starting to make their way. There was a blown engine. Jeff Gordon was 2 cars back from qualifying. Evernham, under his guise that, crew chiefs can inspect the track, took as much frickin' time as he could to inspect the track to make sure that the oil from the blown motor was cleaned up enough, waiting to see if that cloud was going to cover the sun to get the shade to cool the track down just enough for Gordon's qualifying run. 90% of the fans booed the living hell out of him for that. For the gamesmanship in that regard, delaying it out. It took him, a good 5 minutes to get it cleaned up, but then he delayed it an extra 5, almost 10 minutes with getting out there, walking around, and then taking his time getting back. Did not get the cloud cover, did not get the pole. F you.
All right, let's end our racing discussion on a happy note.
That was a happy note.
Congratulations to Tony Stewart and Leah Pruitt. They officially tied the knot this past week.
Good for them.
So now, are they officially the first couple of racing?
I believe that would be correct.
I'm just glad to see Smoke finally tying the knot and then throwing away his bachelor days.
Yep. And now he's going to be an NHRA owner. Funny car and Top Fuel.
Yeah. I've always said Smoke is the best thing in racing. He's a great owner. He was a great racer. He's just
one of the best personalities out there.
He's a great ambassador for racing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he's better than Jeff Gordon. He's better than Jimmy Johnson.
He's got personality and character.
Yeah. One more note here in college hoops before we move on to our final segment, where we'll clean up some loose ends. We've got some miscellaneous stuff to talk about. But I'm going to bring up something from last week here in a couple minutes to get Dave's feedback. The whole Duke DWI debacle.
Oh, God.
And now Coach K again shows his true colors. You kids know I talked about this last week. Now it's a conquistadors time.
See, I haven't heard I have not followed up on the story because I was so pissed and knew that nepotism was going to take the day because Coach K's daughter is high up in the athletic department.
If you kids don't remember what happened, Coach K's grandson and the star freshman Pablo Banchero were arrested on a DWI. Coach K decided Banchero did not have to miss a game, did not have to sit.
That was crap in and of
Stumbled
itself.
to a press conference afterwards. Basically saying, I don't know what you're talking about. It's two different things. It's two different issues. Blah, blah, blah. I told you years ago, Dave.
Coach K was evil.
Even before we did this podcast, when Grayson Allen, that piece of crap, was tripping players, trying to hurt them on the court, and Coach K kept saying, he's not doing anything wrong. Nothing wrong with him. Coach K's image is so far overblown.
He's
for
a
the
scumbag
good by the media. He's just as bad as the rest of them. He's not a virtuous angelic figure. He's a
No,
piece of crap.
He's a
like
win
all
at
the rest
all
of them.
costs. He's even worse than most of them because he touts himself as this ambassador for basketball and the love of college basketball, and he's there for the players and to develop them as upstanding young men. No, he's a frickin' hack.
He's just as bad as the rest of them. And until you people realize that, you realize he's just as bad as Bob Huggins, just as bad as Mike Bray, just as bad as Jim Calipari. Well, maybe not as bad as Pitino.
Oh, Pitino is the devil.
Pitino's the worst, but these guys, look at Mark Few. Up until this past year, we all thought he was going to be the next guy to lead college football or college basketball into the future, and he gets nailed with an overabundance DUI. Well over the legal limit.
Yep. Not good, kids.
All right, more stuff coming here. Sports Frenzy 2.0. We'll be right back.
This is Coach K, and after my retirement from college basketball, I plan to become an analyst on Sports Frenzy 2.0 with the Maestro and the Conquistador every Thursday on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, and Castbox. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page.
All right, kids, whether you like it or not, you got one more segment of me, the Maestro, Kevin Crane.
Along with me, the Conquistador, Dave Height.
We got to wrap up the loose ends here, and then we've got our moments of silence, and of course, plenty of time left over for the dumbasses of the week. But we would be remiss if we didn't start off with the NBA and my favorite person of all time, LeBron James.
You know, it was nice to see the league actually hold him accountable for his role in that dust-up.
He instigated it.
He did. And he got ejected, and at least he got suspended for a game as well, without pay.
Oh, God, and Anthony Davis tried to put forth some kind of
Anthony Davis is an idiot.
The eyebrow put forth some kind of stupid, half-assed defense of LeBron James. Well, you don't know how some people are going to react. Yeah, if somebody elbows me in the face, I'm going to react by throwing another elbow or punching you. What do you expect me to do?
It's going to happen.
Every time something like this happens, it lessens my opinion of LeBron James. And I still, to this day, do not think he is one of the top 10 players of all time. I just don't. And this stuff just reinforces the fact that I am correct.
There you go.
I'm not putting him ahead of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm not putting him ahead of Magic Johnson. I'm not putting him ahead of Dr. J or Michael Jordan. I mean, I could just list name after name. You people out there are so fucking obsessed with LeBron James. He's not that good.
Bill Russell.
Oh, Bill Russell, of course.
Chamberlain. Wilt the Stilt.
Are we talking about how many people you slept with or basketball?
Basketball. Come on. Well, in that case,
he probably wins both.
He wins both. There are so many players throughout the history.
You're starting to see the cracks, the chinks in the armor of LeBron James now, because he's realizing now with Klay Thompson coming back for the Warriors, LeBron knows he ain't winning the West. He is not. He's got to go through the Suns. He's got to go through the Nuggets, and now the Warriors are at full strength. Yeah. Bye-bye, LeBron. Where's your next super team going to be?
You know, every 10 to 15 years, you have the rise of that dominant player.
Steph Curry is better. Steph Curry is better than LeBron James. Steph Curry is better than LeBron James. And I'll say that right now.
I will say LeBron had a 5-year run as the top player.
I could live with that. I could live with that until Steph Curry came along.
Right.
But do not tell me LeBron James is one of the top 10 players of all time, because he's not.
Give me Kobe.
Kobe,
Give me Dwayne.
and I didn't even like Kobe that much. And I'd go with you. Kobe was better. At least Kobe. God, I don't want to say this because I hate the trademark Mamba mentality. But he did have that. I'm going to fucking win the game. If I don't, I don't. But if I do, then you'll kiss my ass at the end.
And that was Kobe's homage to Jordan when it came down.
That's what I did like about Kobe. Was that Kobe was not
He
afraid,
had that
like
Jordan
LeBron,
killer
to take the last
instinct.
shot. LeBron is showing he's afraid to take the last shot.
Yeah. Kobe and Jordan wanted the damn ball. They were going...
For better or worse.
Right. They had
Jordan,
the
it was
killer...
mostly better. Kobe is about 50-50.
Right. But they had the killer instinct.
Right.
To put the dagger in your heart.
Yep. So, if you love LeBron,
good
kiss my
for you.
ass.
You're wrong, but good for you.
Sacramento Kings fired head coach Luke Walton. Of course, this is the NBA. I was going to say, in the NFL, he'd be done after 2 failed head coaching stints.
No,
but in the NBA,
he's an NBA legacy, so he'll probably get another run.
So what? His dad's going to, stop watching Dead and Company on tour and come back and vouch for him so he can get yet another job?
Probably he's going to open up his peyote bag to the next team.
I was going to say, he's going to check and make sure he can move to a state where he can open a pot store.
Yes, he will.
Jesus. Failed with the Lakers, failed with the Kings. Notice the pattern, both West Coast teams. Now, we talked about a week or two ago some of the surprise teams in the NBA were the Wizards and the Cavaliers. Cavaliers, unfortunately, I think that little Cinderella run they had at the beginning of the year is done because Colin Sexton tore his meniscus. He's done for the year. So I think they're going to start fading.
The overachieving is starting to rear up.
Now, Colin Sexton, this is the thing. We don't talk about the NBA that much. We don't like the NBA that much. But I did do a little research on this. Colin Sexton's been in the league for 4 years. He's averaged 20 points a game in the 4 years he's been in. Not bad. Not a bad player.
That's good.
So this is a big hit for the Cavaliers. Finally, good for the general managers. Good for the executives in the NBA. They are forming a coalition, an association to start supporting the executives and coaches who are accused of sexual misconduct and misbehavior. Because I get a little tired of this crap. It always seems to be a certain class of people. It always seems to be a certain group
that gets accused
of this. So maybe this is what needs to happen. Maybe a union of some sort needs to be put together to make sure that these charges that are filed are not frivolous and not just a money grab, or not just a way to force an owner out or an executive out that people don't like.
I like it.
We talked about the Clippers.
It's so easy to make an accusation and have that get a run of its own with no evidence, just an allegation. And that destroys somebody's life. It's way too easy.
And I know you're thinking, well, you're going to destroy a billionaire's life, blah, blah, blah. I still don't like the fact.
It's just not against billionaires and rich people. It's
right
anybody.
And wrong. It's right and
There's
wrong.
A damn TikTok thing for high school students calling teachers pedophiles that's gained traction. There was a thing that I read, a news link that came up over in Britain. Some teacher got accused. And the police said, well, it doesn't meet any criteria for further investigation. It was kind of a joke. Oh, this teacher touched me. Yeah, he touched me on the shoulder. He patted me on the back. It's like one of the new fads. It's freaking ridiculous.
And that's why I don't like this. I don't like any of this. Good for these GMs and these executives. Unfortunately, yes, they are millionaires, but they need to protect themselves against the billionaire owners and the multi-million-dollar players. If they get a bug up their ass and they want to hold a grudge,
Oh, you didn't give me the contract I deserved. You're evil.
college hoops, we have not talked about college hoops yet.
Other than K being a douche.
Well, our teams, Notre Dame.
I don't follow college basketball.
Oh, come on, you follow the Irish.
Actually, no, I don't.
The Irish are 3-1.
Okay.
The Hurricanes are 3-1.
Yeah, college basketball, I don't care.
All right, we'll see. We'll see.
I don't give a rat's ass.
Blackhawks are doing better.
More or less. They won 4 straight, dropped one, won one, and dropped another one last night. Wound up losing 5-2. First game I watched this season was last night. I watched most of the first period and part of the second period, and they actually looked better than they have in a while. I didn't watch the third when they fell apart and gave up 3 unanswered goals. So, I don't know. Coaching move was needed. Colleton had to go. They did get a new assistant coach, Rob Cookson. Another one, Jared Nightingale. And then they elevated Mark Crawford to associate coach. So the change was needed. The team seems to be responding overall, but it's a long road. There's so much to overcome from the last couple seasons. And then they did reach an agreement to go to mediation with Kyle Beach in that whole scenario. So we'll see what transpires there.
Then, of course, just breaking today, there was a disturbing situation with Minnesota Vikings Everson Griffin.
Wow, he had a breakdown a few years ago where he had to get some help, and this seems to be a recurrence where he felt he was threatened and posted a video calling for help that somebody was trying to get him and kill him and his family, and reports are he discharged a firearm, but nobody was hurt. So didn't want to let the police in for fear that it was somebody who was to get him, but they're getting him the help he needs. So thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family. And there was another concussion
I was going to
not
say,
too long ago
I was
from
waiting,
a car accident.
I was waiting. I've been waiting to hear about CTE.
There was a car accident not that long ago for him that resulted in a concussion. And so I don't know if that's going to be part of it, how many he's had, or if who knows what sort of instability is there. So really hope for the best for this poor kid and his family. Well, not kid, but this guy and his family.
Talk about the rich getting richer. The Staples Center will now be called the Crypto.com Arena.
Really?
In a $700 million naming deal. The thing that will really make you throw up in your mouth a little bit about this is the fact that in 1999, when the Staples Center opened, it cost $375 million to build. And now the naming deal alone is $700 million.
That's sad.
It's pathetic, is what it is.
And what's more sad is cryptocurrency has the money.
I have no idea what fucking cryptocurrency is. No idea. We're smart people. We're college graduates. I have no fucking idea what cryptocurrency is. It's ridiculous. No, we can't go down to the drugstore like we did when we were kids, and we can't buy a freaking trading card pack. No, it's got to be now,
An
NFT.
purchased with the cryptocurrency,
Yeah.
and you don't know how much it actually is worth. You spend $10
people are
and
so
you could have
stupid to buy into this.
10,000 in crypto coins, but you don't actually know what the real value of it is. What? It changes so radically day to day, hour to hour. It makes the stock market look stable.
Yeah, and we all know I hate the stock market. I hate it. And I've done research, and I've tried to figure out the stock market. And what little knowledge I have is nothing compared to the ignorance I have of this cryptocurrency bullshit. Oh my God. All right. Golf.
It makes me think back in the day that maybe my youngest boy wasn't that far off when he started his own currency with his Nick Bucks.
Why not? Why not?
Second grader writing out Nick Bucks. There you go. Trading them at school.
Coming up Friday. I hope this is not the end of the rivalry. I hope this just makes it
that much better.
4 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday. Dave and I will be doing other things, but for all of you out there who want to see, hopefully, the nastiest rivalry in golf get just a little bit dirtier.
Oh, we could only hope.
Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka
going head to head with this year's match. They had the touchy feel-good story coming out of the Ryder Cup. They had their moment. We'll see if they can put it behind. To me, Koepka is the one that needs this. He is the one who's really struggled with his play over the last year. I know injuries are there, but he has not really taken a lot of things seriously. And if he really wants to be considered right now one of the top PGA golfers, he needs to step his game up starting with this. And he can't be playing these stupid-ass mind games. He needs to put up or shut up on the course.
I agree. Completely agree. Even though DeChambeau has only won the one major,
he plays far better.
If he can refine, if DeChambeau gets this offseason, clear his head, refine his game in other aspects, you're right. He will surpass Koepka. Koepka has the injury as an excuse. He's got to get over that, and he's got to prove that we've seen Jordan Spieth do this. We've seen Rory McIlroy do this, where they come out of the gate strong and they win 2 or 3 majors, and then they fade.
Yeah, they say, oh, well, it's not a big tournament, so I'll just slough off, and it's a cut missed here, a cut missed there, and they're in a downward spiral, and they've blown any chance they had at being one of the greats.
Right. And now all of a sudden, we're not going to talk about Tiger Woods and his video, and everybody's already betting on Tiger Woods to win the Masters. You idiots. You
dumbasses.
Morons.
He's not even going to be able to compete.
But that being
year.
said, Jack Nicklaus and then his numbers up there for total majors won. If these guys keep pulling this crap, like you said, great point. They flame out too early. They can't sustain the momentum. I mean, Mickelson's won, 7 or 8? And now he looks like a god compared to these guys, because all of a sudden Spieth can't win anymore. McIlroy can't win anymore. And if Koepka does not, like you said, sustain his momentum,
he's really got to pull his head
they're all
out
going
of
to be
his
there
ass.
winning 3 or 4 or 5. And they'll go in the Golf Hall of Fame someday, but they're never going to be even close to being legends like we thought they would be.
Right.
And finally, very serious topic we want to bring up here real quick. The saga of Peng Shuai.
Oh my God, this is a human rights story like no other this year. How China continually gets away with hiding or putting away their citizens. This poor tennis player came out accusing her coach of abuses, and she suddenly is disappeared, which we know happens in China. And everybody's starting to call out, where is she? Where is she? What's going on? There's video, and I'm using air quotes, showing that she's okay. No. How about you actually bring her out of China to an event and prove to people that she's actually okay? And why do we continually bow down and allow China to pull this shit?
Because it's the same reason that we allow Russia. Anybody dissents in Russia, they get poisoned and die. Same reason that anybody that crosses the Clintons suddenly disappears and ends
And
up in a
dies.
car in a river somewhere, drowned.
Or they commit
Dave.
suicide by shooting themselves in the back of the head.
I think I hear the black
Twice.
helicopters coming. I'm not trying to joke about this though. I do joke because of the fact that we
joke because it's frickin' true.
We bring this to light. Other journalists obviously bring this to light. For once, they do their job and they do it well, and they point this out, and it's ignored, and it's scoffed at, and it's laughed at, and it should not be. We need to see Peng Shuai live on video with other people around.
Not in China.
Right. Non-Chinese journalists from independent sources, the UK, it doesn't have to be America, just give us some independent journalists who go in and talk to her and find out if she's all right. But this is the disgusting, freaking awful world we live in. We'll keep you updated on this. Now, our moments of silence. Dave's got a couple, and then we'll move on to our dumb asses of the week. And I have got a ton of them for you, kids.
Yep. We've got a couple of moments of silence for baseball. Former All-Star relief pitcher Doug Jones, third most career saves in Cleveland franchise history, passed away. As had Bill Verdun, Major League player, coach, and manager who won 2 World Series with the Pirates. Thoughts and prayers to their families.
All right. I have so many dumbasses. It's ridiculous. I've only got 8 minutes to work with, so.
Speed round, go.
Henry Ruggs. Wow, shocking. Again.
Shocking.
He misses his alcohol test to keep him under house arrest. He's already gotten the break where he gets
being under house arrest,
and he can't show up for the alcohol test.
The
lawyer blames the equipment.
He was not notified by the text to his phone because oops, we gave the wrong phone number.
Then they say, he quote unquote self-tested. Yeah, that's what I do when I see a picture of a Jennifer Aniston bikini shot. I self-test, okay?
Actually, that's the whole thing, is he's supposed to have the breathalyzer that he... Yeah, bullshit. He got lucky.
If this guy gets off, I said this a month ago
Celebrity
on the show,
privilege.
If he gets off with less than 10 years, I'm going to be so fucking pissed. So mad. Speaking of which, the Chiefs have so graciously announced that they decided to quote-unquote help Ariel Young, the victim of Britt Reed, in that tragic car accident.
What took so fucking long?
How magnanimous, how generous of the Chiefs to actually help to pay the victim of the assistant coach
drinking on premises. It took them way too freaking long to step up to do this.
This thing, I'm telling you, this thing just makes me so angry and so mad. This is just as bad as Henry Ruggs. Just as bad, if not worse.
Agreed.
Because they facilitated this. The Raiders, at least, aren't held liable for what Henry Ruggs did.
Because it was way off.
He did it on his own.
Reed was on frickin' Kansas City Chiefs property. He was at the frickin' facility.
How dare you act like you're so generous?
You know what?
So wonderful.
If
we're going to help the family. You're responsible!
And guess what? It took you way too damn long to do this. You should have been out front and center right from the moment it happened, taking care of this. You're as despicable as Reed.
And we talked about earlier how the NFL is so big. This is why big is dangerous, is because the NFL has been trying to figure out a way to cover this up, to keep it down. This would have been massive news anywhere else if it wasn't the NFL. We've talked about Tony Dungy in the past. We talk about Andy Reid.
Oh, we've got Zach Stacy, former running back, who on video beating the hell out of his ex-girlfriend. This douchebag needs to go away. She's had restraining orders against him and he violated them and he's still out.
But the NFL is so wonderful and awesome and makes so much money that we just brush all this stuff under the carpet, under the rug. Now, on a lighter note, even though I still don't like this crap, I've called out the Mahomes family. Now I'm calling out Matthew Stafford's wife. I don't care if she had brain surgery. I don't care. She's throwing stuff at 49ers fans as the Rams are getting their asses handed to them. I don't care if she's throwing pretzels. I don't care what she's doing. Would these people, these spouses, these children stop going to these away games where you start throwing stuff at the fans at the home stadium when they're kicking your ass? Just suck it up. You lost. You deal with it.
You don't do it at home. You don't do it on the road. You show class and dignity. Or you just have to say, sorry, family members not allowed.
That's what I like.
One strike and you're out.
That's what I like. No more visiting family members.
Not on away games.
Lock them up in a booth. You can't tell me they don't have access? Well, again, we talked about the Kansas City Packers game
Packers
with Jordan Love's
family up in the fucking nosebleeds.
But you guarantee Pat Mahomes' family. Yeah, I'm saying Pat Mahomes' family. Matthew Stafford's wife, they don't have access to luxury suite, a box. Keep them away from the riffraff then.
They shouldn't be going to most of these anyway.
Oh, God. Anyway. Antonio Brown. Fake vaccination card. Supposedly he's been exonerated of this. But just the fact, the rumor had to come out. The rumor had to be refuted.
And it had to be him. It had to be him.
The Buccaneers, with all the miscreants and the train wrecks on that roster, have done such a great job over the last 2 years of keeping the ship as close to right as they possibly could. But he's still going to have shit like this with him. Finally.
Dumbasses do as dumbasses do.
I am sick and tired of the NFL's taunting penalties. I am sick and tired of the unsportsmanlike conduct, idiocy they are perpetrating. The Lions got a penalty between quarters because somebody made a joke about Jadeveon Clowney's mother.
Whoop-de-doo.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire got a taunting penalty because he briefly pointed at a Cowboys defender as he strolled into the end zone in their 19-9 win. This is enough.
Ridiculous.
It's enough. It's enough with this. I was all for, I didn't like the celebrations in the end zone, so you allow those, but now you won't let anybody to do anything on the field.
The only thing that's taunting is if you're standing over somebody you just laid out. Or if you actually run into somebody, or if you stroll along and actually make it to the sideline. There you go. But it's out of control. It's ridiculous.
Another one of these points of emphasis.
They're fucking stupid.
The points of emphasis coming out of the meetings.
That tells you the
preseason.
NFL doesn't know what the hell they're doing.
No. Say goodbye to the kids, Dave.
Goodbye to the kids, Dave.
Check out the weekend edition. Reviews of Red Notice and Psych 3. This is Gus.
Sebastian Bach concert recap.
That's right, for all you old school 80s hair metal fans. We are there for you.
We'll catch you next week, kids. Happy Turkey Day.